against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Wally.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Do you see the transition to a Bitcoin standard? Because I wrote a book in which I said that we need a big reset to get a new debt-free system. Do you agree?
I don't disagree,
Yeah.
because that would make sense, but I don't agree in the sense that I think that's what we need or has to happen. I mean, the coolest thing about Bitcoin, I like the term opt-out technology, because I don't need to convince anyone else. That's the other thing about Bitcoin. I say, hey, to my buddies, you guys should buy Bitcoin. And they're like, ooh, I'm scared. I'm like, well, that sucks. And I move on. I don't need you to adopt it for me to get benefit from it.
Exactly.
Right? So Bitcoin's opt-out technology, which makes it peaceful, right? But
it's a free choice.
Point being is free choice. So what do I think we need for the world to be on a hard money standard? That's a question for the world, because I'm already on a hard money standard. You know what I mean? So like if Bitcoin goes up, roundabouts 100% year over year, everything in my life has been getting cheaper, half off, 100% growth, 2x. So everything in my life's been getting half off every year for 10 years. So I'm on a hard money standard. I live with peace. I live with love. I live with truth. I live with self-agency and with me. And I live with a money that enables me to take benefit from all the innovation of humans and all the growth. People are building AI and shit. So everything in my life gets cheaper and cheaper the better humans innovate. So I don't know. You should ask someone who's on a weak money standard what it's going to take for them. But that's the beautiful thing is like I don't need the government to say we're going back on the gold standard. All I do is take out my phone and say I'm done with this shit.
So you're already living on the Bitcoin standard.
Bitcoin's opt-out technology. All it takes is yourself.
Yeah, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, covering news, culture, and medical warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state. Jack Mallers dropping the hot fire like always. He's describing it. It's opt-out technology. This is the beautiful part. This is the part that people don't quite understand. It's an election year, everybody. But the most important vote you could make is voting with your wallet by taking self-custody of your wealth. And you could do that using Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And that's something really important to keep in mind, because regardless of what's happening on the outside world, I always love the meme of like it's like the Bitcoiner's just on his phone at peace and he's like on a train or a bus and then the world's on fire outside. If your money is in self-custody and you control your keys, regardless what's happening outside and the crazy government policy and the overspending, as Mallers has said, that your life will get progressively cheaper over time. Everything around you goes to zero against Bitcoin. Shout out Max Kaiser. That's his quote. So yeah. And I think once the world realizes that, I think the world will be a much better place, a much more peaceful place, because I think a lot of the clown world and a lot of the instability in society is caused by broken money. A lot of people can't explain why they can't make ends meet. Opti and I were just talking about, ordering food, and it's like $30, $40. I remember a couple years ago, it was like, like $20 or like $15 you used to order food on like Uber Eats or Grubhub or whatever that, whatever application you're using. Now it's like $40, $50 for like, just a single meal. It's absolutely nuts. And then you have, of course, the government gaslighting you and talking about price controls. You have some people talking about like Elon Musk talking about a government efficiency committee. Those are half measures. The solution to this is the separation of money and state. The solution to inflation is Bitcoin. And the reason for that is Bitcoin's absolute scarcity. You can't manipulate and change the rules to benefit yourself. Bitcoin is the solution to inflation, and you don't have to wait for an election or someone to win a popularity contest for you to start feeling the benefits of transitioning to a hard money standard. All you have to do, buy Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, put that Bitcoin into self-custody, and you can start feeling the benefits. In my opinion, it takes about 4 years, a full cycle, to really start feeling the benefits. And then it really takes about 8 years, I would say, to get relatively wealthy compared to where you started, what your starting point was. The last thing I'll say is that's not to say that, the fiat elections, like I like to call them, or fiat politics are not important. I think during the transitionary period, they are somewhat important. Obviously, if you're a Bitcoin entrepreneur, you're a Bitcoin business owner, you obviously want a good regulatory environment. You don't want a negative regulatory environment. All that being said, that doesn't mean that if a government takes a hostile stance towards Bitcoin and makes the life of Bitcoin business owners in that country, doesn't mean it's going to stop Bitcoin innovation or Bitcoin. It might slow it down in that jurisdiction, but really what that government is doing is just hurting themselves and, more importantly, hurting their citizens, right? But also, if you take self-custody, you can vote with your feet and move to El Salvador, right? That's the awesome, beautiful thing about Bitcoin, especially if you learn about self-custody. I think the next step after that is running your own node. I think the next step after that is running a BitAxe, because I think that's really badass. Anyways, I do want to bring up my co-host Optimus Field, our guest for today, who was recommended by the supreme leader of Simply Bitcoin's Telegram,
the supreme overlord,
Darth Coin. We have BitCarrot in the house. BitCarrot, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, great to be here.
Great to have you. Opti, what are we going to talk about on the culture on this Friday?
Before we go into culture, I do want to mention, or I'd rather comment on a few things that Jack Mallers said. The first one, which is like the funniest thing, it's like so funny when you get into Bitcoin. You kind of go through these stages of like, once you understand Bitcoin, it clicks. You're like a Bitcoin evangelist, and you're telling everyone and literally anyone at every moment of every day about Bitcoin. And then after a while, you're kind of just like, I'm burnt out about people calling me dumb. I'm like, I don't even tell my friends anymore about it. So I think this kind of like a general trend you see with Bitcoiners after a certain while. It's like, look, it's very obvious the benefits of Bitcoin in my life. I don't have to force you to get to Bitcoin. Obviously, it's freedom of choice, and you can opt into it whenever you want to, and it'll be there when you need it. And then the second part, I may disagree a little bit with Jack on that, where he was saying, like, I don't care if anyone adopts Bitcoin, because, like, yes, on a personal level, I've already adopted a Bitcoin standard, and it's like my life has improved, and I try to share this with anyone possible and anyone that'll listen. And when you see people having these problems, you try to share it. But like the name of the game is we want as many people holding Bitcoin. So like I know what he was saying, but I think it is important for us to try to get more people to hold it, but we're just like burnt out and tired. Anyways, in the culture with BitCarrot, first of all, shouts out to the supreme overlord of our Telegram, Darth Coin, because today, he basically forced BitCarrot to come on the show today. And we're going to be talking about open source development, about Nostr, the state of Lightning, and circular economy. So I know these are a lot of topics that our diehard audience likes to talk about. So hopefully we expose more people to these topics and the importance of kind of like getting involved, and the importance of developers out there, and what's actually going on behind the scenes, or, under behind the code of Bitcoin, and the work that's done by people like BitCarrot. So I think this is going to be a great conversation.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Also, to address the topic of today's video, the title, I do want to mention, look, we have been crabbing for a while now, and I think a lot of people get bored when things crab. And I kind of want to talk about as to what could be some of the reasons that we are crabbing. One of the things that happened once Donald Trump said that he was going to make, if he was going to get elected into office, potentially make Bitcoin a reserve asset in the United States. But one of the things that immediately happened the Monday after the conference was the Treasury was moving Bitcoin. Apparently, they sent another 10,000 or so Bitcoin back to Coinbase. Of course, why are you going to send Bitcoin to Coinbase? I think they're trying to sell it. So we're going to talk about all the different things that have happened that have potentially been suppressing the price. Also, we're also going to talk about as well as the last cycle. I think one of the reasons, this is my theory, it's unpopular in some circles, is I truly believe that when the CCP banned Bitcoin mining, I think that it was an attack on price. all those miners were forced to sell some of their Bitcoin in order to relocate to favorable jurisdictions. Hash rate dropped by like 50%. It looks like it took down the price with it. So yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that. And the reason that, you know, it's beneficial potentially to some nation states to attack the price, because at the end, fundamentally, number go up is the biggest orange pillar in the world. As the price goes up, it's, you know, it creates that incentive. People look at Bitcoin and they're like, oh, wow, I probably should get some just in case it catches on. Nihilist Fields in the chat says, suppress me harder, daddy government. You know what the awesome part about all of this, though, is, and there is a silver lining, is that like you could only do it for so long. And then you eventually run out of Bitcoin and you just can't print more Bitcoin, right? So you can only really shoot that bullet once. The German government could have only sold that Bitcoin once. That's it. They're never going to be able to accumulate that amount ever again without pushing the price higher. So you can only do that once. China can only ban Bitcoin once, right? Ban Bitcoin mining once. Anyways, guys, before we jump into the show, I do give a shout out to our lead sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the best place to buy your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. To get started, all you got to do is you put in your email address, and the whole sign-up process takes about 2 to 5 minutes. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you can redeem those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. We're going to toss a coin into the well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code wins 500 sats. If you use promo code simplybtc, it will give you 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well when you sign up to bitcoinwell.com. Support self-custody Bitcoin on-ramps, self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps like bitcoinwell.com. Head over there today. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. Lots to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you do want to store your generational wealth properly. Usually when you buy a hardware wallet, it comes with a little piece of paper and it gives you an opportunity to write down your seed words, right? Your seed words are your Bitcoin. It's either 12 to 24 words. Thing is, paper is prone to water damage, fire damage, can be eaten by your dog. It's not a great way to store your generational wealth. And this is exactly why you should get yourself a Stamp Seed Titanium Seed Phrase Storage Kit. It is proof of work seed phrase storage. You literally hammer in your seed phrase into a slate of titanium. Titanium is fireproof, it's waterproof. If your dog tries to eat it, it will literally break its teeth, so it probably won't do that. You want to store your generational wealth properly so it could last a lifetime and into the future generations. Build your legacy the right way. Get yourself a Stamp Seed Titanium Seed Phrase Storage Kit today. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off to make sure that you maintain the relationship with your grandchildren, because I don't think they'll like you very much if you lost your Bitcoin and your explanation is, I didn't get a stamp seed, I wrote down my seed phrase on paper. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 58,310 sats per dollar, 1,715. Block height 857,054. Blocks to halving 192,946. Halving estimate March 26, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity 4,822 BTC. Capacity value 281 million. Realized monetary inflation 1.44%. Market capitalization 1.15 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 6.74%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. I love the fact that BitCarrot is here today because we're going to play a FUD video for you, BitCarrot, and I want to get your thoughts on this as someone who is involved in just the development of Bitcoin. We have a little bit of FUD. Here's our boy Checkmatey. Love his work. Going to follow him back also from the Simply account. And he says, can you believe critics are barking about the 7TX metric? The base layer does not compete with Visa and MasterCard, fellas. It competes with central banks and base money. Bitcoin needs better critics. That's absolutely right. This is what scaling Bitcoin is, what the second and third layer solutions are going to be all about. But anyways, let's take a listen to this FUD, and I want to get BitCarrot's opinion on this. Let's check it out.
All right.
So Bitcoin burns 2% of the world's electricity or so to be able to process somewhere between 3 to 7 transactions per second across the entire world. That's it.
It's not many.
It's not many. And worse, it never could work for payments. So if we've seen come and go waves of companies say, we'll accept payment in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
They're lying because they aren't actually accepting payment in Bitcoin. They are using a service that allows them to price in dollars, presents Bitcoin to the customer, transfers the Bitcoin, turns it into dollars, and so the merchant is getting actual money. So Bitcoin...
All right. So I'm going to address first, before I pass it on to BitCarrot, the the part in the beginning. Bitcoin burns 2% of the world's electricity. Okay, first of all, right? It's not burning electricity, number one. And number two, Bitcoin uses excess energy. If it's not excess energy, it's not cheap. If it's not cheap, it's not economic for miners to use it. Right now, by the way, I RIP to all the miners right now, because it's not good to be a miner right now after having the prices gone down. Not good. Stay strong, boys and girls. So what I got to say is, no, it doesn't burn the world's electricity. And also this kind of misconception, right? When you produce electricity, when you make electricity, if you transport it over long distances, it loses its efficiency. If you have an iPhone or an Android, whatever, you have an electronic device that has a battery, leave it on the nightstand, and I promise you the next day, if it was charged to 100%, it will maybe be at 99. And if you leave it there for a month on your nightstand without charging it, it will probably lose like 50, 60, 70% of its charge. So if you can't store electricity efficiently without losing efficiency, and if you can't transport it over long distances, you have to use it on the spot, right? So then this creates situations where you have isolated energy pockets all around the world where they've built out tremendous amount of electrical capability, but they don't have enough people to use it. This is why Bitcoin miners go to places, they scour the earth to find places where there's excess electrical capacity. This is why you have so many Bitcoin miners focusing on, like, for example, the Kingdom of Bhutan, right? This very small country has a tremendous amount of hydroelectric capability, but there's not enough people for it. So they have an option. They sell it to a neighboring country, or they see Bitcoin miners and they say, the Bitcoin miners, oh, wait, no, these guys will pay us more for the electricity. So this misconception that somehow Bitcoin is like burning electricity and using electricity that was somehow meant to go to a house and now it's bringing the prices up, that doesn't make sense. Because you can't set up a Bitcoin mining facility in the middle of Manhattan. You will literally go out of business. It's too expensive for you. So you have to go to remote areas where you're on the hunt for electricity that was already going to waste. So wanted to clear that up. I'm going to pass it on to BitCarrot in regards to all the other things, in regards to Bitcoin not being able to scale.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about that. So, there's layer 2, Lightning, which can process millions of transactions and currently is. And I actually want to bring up a project that I've recently launched, which is to help people facilitate all these things. And it's called HiveTalk, hivetalk.org. Effectively, it is a Zoom for Bitcoiners. So instead of using mainstream big tech Zoom, you can use our HiveTalk server, where effectively you can log in with Nostr, and you can also zap each other with Lightning. So if we want to put that argument to rest about how you can't actually transfer payments at scale very quickly, you can certainly do it on our platform or anywhere on Nostr. People on Nostr are zapping each other on Lightning every day, microtransactions at the speed of light and all over the world. In fact, there are people in Australia and South Africa right now who are just zapping each other's sats. And to say that this actually doesn't transact at only 3 to 7 transactions, that's a complete that's false. It's totally false. So on layer two, definitely is there. Um, and the other thing is that, I think that Bitcoin is not just about new money, it's also about a new world. So if we look at what's happening actually on Nostr, and I know maybe not everyone here is on Nostr, it's a step away from the existing big tech paradigm where you can't actually say what you want to think. You have more freedom of speech over there. And like right now we're on YouTube, we sort of have to watch what we're saying. Um, but on Nostr, if you want to say something, you can say it. If you don't want to hear what someone else says, you can mute them. You can have your own relay, so you can put your information on your own, in your own storage if you don't want to share with other people, or if you want to, share with other people, they can't really stop you, and that's the beauty of it. And as this ecosystem grows, it's growing in itself this beautiful circular economy to sustain people who are actually building on it, and also we're building out the parts of the internet in a Bitcoin fashion. So it's more decentralized. You're not siloed to things like, Zoom or eBay or X, like Twitter or Facebook. But all these apps are having a new life on Nostr and Lightning.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let me ask you something, and we are huge fans of Nostr. I regularly use Nostr all the time. Primal app is amazing. If you want to follow me, go to primal.net/Nico. Everything I post on Twitter, I post on Nostr, and I also put a lot of, Nostr feels like when I go on Twitter and I start scrolling on Twitter, I get angry. When I start scrolling on Nostr, I'm just like, oh, this is cool. It's a one big happy family. Because you're not being manipulated by the algorithm, right?
Exactly.
That's like one of the beautiful things about Nostr. And I definitely recommend you to create an account and just kind of explore there. Now, it is a little bit, I'll be honest with you, a little bit of a Bitcoin echo chamber at the moment. But it's going to continue to grow over time. And it's a fascinating protocol. I'll be honest with you. Now, I kind of want to focus a little bit back on the scaling aspect of it, BitCarrot, and obviously you have a unique perspective. What would you say to people that I personally am a huge fan of Lightning? It's come a long way. This might be unpopular with some Bitcoiners. I'm a convenience maxi when it comes to my everyday Lightning transactions, so I will use custodial Lightning wallets. Right now, my daily driver is Get Albi. The Primal Lightning wallet is great. The Strike wallet is great. Phoenix was pretty good. Wallet of Satoshi, I think, is the best to onboard people with. I don't have the patience to really balance channels and all of that stuff. But do you see that as obviously, custodial Lightning is not ideal? Do you see a world where Bitcoin scales using the Lightning Network, where we can reach a point where, it's self-custodial Lightning wallets being used?
Yeah, of course. I think that's something as the tech matures, it'll be easier and easier for the average consumer, because right now you have to be fairly technical to a certain degree to run your own node and run your own Lightning node. But I think there's been a lot of progress made in the last 4 years. One of the
Definitely.
products that's come out recently is Albi Hub. So Albi Hub basically allows you to hold your own keys, but they will do the infrastructure in the cloud for you. It's similar to Voltage. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Voltage. So, these are both steps in the right direction, but it takes engineering time and it takes a lot of effort to get there. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. I think like Custodio is like a mid step in between in terms of not just convenience, but also cost, because if you're not pushing the volume that you want to do, it may not be cost effective. Yeah. So, but I mean, that being said, people are also teaching each other how to use it, because there's a learning curve of how to understand how to use Lightning. And that's also a step. So you have to onboard people slowly. For example, one of the things that we've been trying to push forward with, educational initiatives is that on hivetalk.io, .org. There are various Bitcoin nonprofit groups, such as the Orange Sun and the School of Bitcoin Australia, who are actively using the Hive Talk platform to teach people how to use Lightning, how to use Nostr. And so that kind of onboarding is what we're trying to facilitate to help people understand how to use it better. And after they've gotten past that first step, then they can go to something that's a little bit more self-sovereign. But you still have to put on your training wheels before you actually get there.
100%, 100%. And I right now at this point, I encourage people. First step is obviously self-custody. Self-custody was not easy in the early days of Bitcoin.
Of course not, yeah.
So it's come a long way. Self-custody with cold storage was not easy. It's come a tremendously long way. And what I will say is that even nodes have come a long way. There's very good plug and play solutions. Obviously, I personally run a Start9. Highly recommend it. It's phenomenal. Matt and the Start9 team do an incredible job. You could use the promo code in the video description. You guys could get a discount on there. I think it's like 9%. But yeah, run your own node. There's plug and play solutions at the moment. They're open source solutions as well. And then, if you have the time, it's not that I don't have the technical know-how to set up my own Lightning wallets. I just I don't have that's where I'm like, okay, convenience.
Time is a thing, right? Because there was someone had posted how much time enterprise devs actually have to maintain nodes, and it's on the order of several hundred hours a year.
Yeah.
So if you're a pleb, you're like, I'm a Bitcoiner, but I don't have a couple hundred hours a year. That's completely understandable. Even if you knew how to, it's we have so many other things we have to do every single day. So, if it's a small amount, I understand. You just want to have the little bit of convenience so you can use it for spending, for zapping people, and that kind of stuff. But definitely, I encourage people, if you have the spare time, learn. But you can also get other people to share and show you how to learn, because that's actually faster. It's if you have friends who get together and show you how to do that. And, I think that's the beauty of social networks like Nostr, in that they allow people to ask each other these questions where it might be very difficult in some other form where you don't have a lot of Bitcoiners in a certain space.
For sure. Absolutely. 100% agree with that. All right, everybody, let's get to news. We're going to talk about, is the US government suppressing the price of Bitcoin? Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Foundation Devices website, where you can get yourself a Passport wallet. It's a completely open source Bitcoin hardware wallet. You want to take cold storage of your Bitcoin. Use promo code SIMPLY to get yourself a discount to a Passport by Foundation Devices hardware wallet. So I want to talk about this. The feature that orange pills the most amount of people is number go up. That is the reality. Some people might not like that. Some people are like, no, I'm idealistic. I'm here for the revolution. I'm here for the revolution too. But I would say the vast majority of you guys came for the wealth. You came for the riches. That's the reality. Most people are like that. Not everyone's like that, but most people are like that. Number go up is what convinces people, what initially attracts people to Bitcoin. Without number go up, you're not going to be able to convince people. That's kind of like the reality. The reality is that Bitcoin has to go up. I kind of see Bitcoin's success as binary. If it doesn't go up, it dies. That's my opinion. And the way that it's structured, absolute scarcity, it's literally designed to go up forever. Laura,
That's the way I see it. That's what Mahlers was talking about in the beginning when he said, I am on a hard money standard. Everything gets cheaper against Bitcoin. 100%. In fact, that's the way that the world should work, because efficiencies in productivity and efficiencies in technology should make the world cheaper over time. But it's actually government manipulation of money that is making the world artificially more expensive. Bitcoin is the only unit of account that properly, can't think of the word, that properly allows you to feel the benefits of humanity becoming more efficient and productivity increasing. There we go. Came up with it. Anyways, attack on number go up is an attack on the rate of adoption. So there was some leaks that were coming out of the European Union, some European Union bureaucrats that were essentially talking about, like, they were, when the leak came out in the documentation, it basically said, we have to do something about the price. And why are they talking about that? Well, if you compare fiat to Bitcoin, the reason that Bitcoin wins every single time is because Bitcoin tends to go up and to the right and fiat goes down and to the right forever. Central bankers will say Bitcoin's too volatile. What they'll leave out of that argument is that the volatility goes up. What they leave out of the argument when it comes to fiat is like, yeah, maybe the fiat of the wealthier countries, like the European Union, Switzerland, the United States, maybe the volatility to going down is a little bit, it's not so crazy, the day-to-day volatility, but it's still losing purchasing power over time, right? So anyways, the reason I'm saying all of this is we have been crabbing for quite a while. I think a lot of people had a lot of expectations that Bitcoin would be a lot higher than it is today. And I noticed some things over time. So first thing that I want to talk about is Trump announced plans for the US Bitcoin Strategic Reserve that same Monday. So Trump made that announcement on Saturday at the Bitcoin conference. On Monday, the known reserves of Bitcoin held by the Treasury, they moved to another wallet. And it was just announced yesterday that the US government, US government's $590 million Silk Road Bitcoin transfer to Coinbase unlikely to be sold. The government could also be looking to custody or trade the Bitcoin based on a recent partnership with Coinbase Prime. So, I mean, yeah, take that as you may. I don't know about that. Here's a tweet by David Bailey, CEO of BTC Inc. Mt. Gox done, GBTC done, Genesis done, Celsius done, BlockFi done, Germany done, USA in process. If these positions hadn't liquidated this year, we'd already be pushing 100K. Now I know what a lot of you guys are saying. Nico, what are you talking about? This never happened before. Why would governments attack the price? I mean, this has happened before. This is the example that I always like to point out. I think that there was two major stress tests in Bitcoin's history. The first one was the fork wars. We all know how that ended up. And then the second one was when, I believe, China banned Bitcoin mining. The vast majority of the hash rate was located in China. And when the CCP banned Bitcoin mining, the hash rate literally dropped by 50%. Now, the reason that I call that a stress test is without any central authority, just Bitcoin's mere incentives alone, the hash rate recovered by itself because people were pursuing profit. But take a look at this chart for our audio listeners. I'll try to describe it as the best I can. Here's the last Bitcoin cycle peak of 2021, where we peaked out at 65K. What was interesting about that peak is, unlike previous Bitcoin all-time highs, it kind of did like this double peak. But what was happening to the hash rate in the background was fascinating. The first peak, when we hit $60,467, what happened around that time is the hash rate dropped. You guys will see this on the video. It's the blue line. the black line is the price, the hash rate dropped 50%. Checkmatey disagrees with me, but I believe that this is a big reason as to why the price dropped the way it did. And I would make the case that this is a major reason as to why Bitcoin did not hit 100K last cycle. As the hash rate recovered, so did the price. And then the cycle started repeating itself. Anyways, I don't think it's a coincidence, in my opinion, that the CCP, remember what I told you guys about the feature that orange pills the most people as number go up. I don't think it's a coincidence that the CCP banned Bitcoin mining, therefore slowing down Bitcoin adoption, because those miners had to sell like a huge portion of their stack, therefore putting downward sell pressure. I don't think that the CCP banned Bitcoin mining when it did, which was in the middle of the last blow off top. I don't think that they did that I don't think that they didn't do that on purpose when they did it. I think that they were trying to take momentum out of the market. Now, it's interesting to me, right, that some people could make the case that we're mid-cycle right now. I don't think it's a coincidence that the German government, that the US government are selling Bitcoin. Could they potentially be suppressing the price of Bitcoin? If you suppress the price of Bitcoin, means less adoption, means less number go up. Could it be? Maybe so. But I will say this. What happened during the fork wars was that Jihan Wu and Roger Ver had a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. And they were able to artificially make it seem like there was a great deal of demand for Bitcoin Cash. And they were able to make it seem also that the Bitcoin Cash hash rate was organically overtaking the Bitcoin hash rate. Now we know after the fact that they did that artificially. It was not real, but that cost them something. What did it cost them? It cost them Bitcoin. The US government, the German government, in fact, anyone who's trying to suppress the price of Bitcoin could only do that for so long because eventually you run out of Bitcoin. And when you run out of Bitcoin, you just can't print more of it to sell more of that Bitcoin, right? So it's kind of like you have one shot. And once you shoot that shot, you're stuck with less Bitcoin, and it's going to cost you a whole lot more to build up the stack that you once had. So anyways, that's the good news. Now, another thing that I noticed as well, here's Flying Raven, and Flying Raven has been essentially showing the Mt. Gox trustee wallet Bitcoin balance. As you can see, starting from July 1st, the amount of Bitcoin has decreased from 141,000 Bitcoin, and today, August 15th, it's down to 32,371 Bitcoin. I mean, even if you can make the case the majority of those people were not selling Bitcoin whatsoever, but let's just say 20% or 30% of those people were selling the Bitcoin for whatever reason, that is a tremendous amount of sell pressure. So I think David Bailey's observation here, and his tweet did really well, 1,800 likes. I think it's absolutely spot on. I think that there's a tremendous amount, there's a large amount of entities that hold a tremendous amount of Bitcoin that have been selling Bitcoin. And I think that's what's been causing the sell pressure. Now, of course, this is all kind of price speculation, but I know that this is a topic that a lot of people are thinking about and a lot of people have questions about. Now, where are we in regards to Bitcoin's ROI compared to previous cycles? Believe it or not, we're actually like right at where the previous cycles are. Shout out to Benjamin Cohen and his channel Into the Cryptoverse. This is where I got this from. But this chart essentially shows market cycle 2. So the first like 2013 cycle, market cycle, the orange line is the 2017 cycle, and then the green line is the 2021 cycle. The pink line is today's cycle. So it's the 2024, 2025 cycle. If you can see, we're basically exactly where we should be in terms of ROI as it relates to the 2017 cycle and the 2021 cycle. So even with all this downward sell pressure, and I think the ETFs, the approval of the ETFs really like got us ahead. And I think a lot of people were excited. And I think that's the reason that we broke
an all-time high before the halving, or shortly after. I think it was before the halving. But I think that was done artificially by the ETFs. But in the grand scheme of things, like if you look at history, we're exactly, in line with the previous cycle. So good news is eventually, all these institutions that are potentially hostile towards Bitcoin, they don't want a Bitcoin adoption. They're going to run out of Bitcoin to sell. Maybe they are suppressing the price. It doesn't matter. They're going to run out of it. And honestly, that gives you an opportunity to stack sweet Satoshis. Now, I wish I knew this back in February, because then I would have just waited for the dip rather than buying at 65 to 70K. But, they don't call it, earning your stripes for no reason. In my opinion, the best strategy ever has been just dollar cost averaging. When there's dips, dollar cost average harder. When it's just kind of going crabbing, dollar cost average. Even though I don't listen to this advice myself because I get FOMO, when it goes up, I dollar cost average as well. If you haven't stacked the top, are you a real Bitcoiner? That's what I got to say. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this? Do you think the US government is suppressing the price of Bitcoin? I mean, I just feel like they're doing it to spike Trump, to be honest, bro. Like, Trump goes in there, makes it part of his policies. Like, I'm going to make all these Bitcoiners rich. I'm not going to sell Bitcoin on my watch if I'm in the administration. And then, bro, that same Monday, they move the corn, and now they're moving it to Coinbase. But at the same time, they're saying, oh, we're moving it to Coinbase, but we're not trading it. We might be trading it, but you never know. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, that was my initial response as well, that it does seem very coincidental that ever since Trump embraced Bitcoin, he went to, Bitcoin Nashville and was like, all right, we want to make sure that Bitcoin does well. They transferred their Bitcoin and it looked like they were going to sell it. I also heard the rumors as well, not just from Checkmatey, but other people, that apparently they've been talking about consolidating and updating their custody of their Bitcoin with Coinbase. So it is very interesting that we're seeing these metrics. Of course, on Bitcoin Twitter, we always go to like the, government's bad and dumb, and they're obviously going to dump their Bitcoin on us. But whether it's the US government or not, I still kind of, putting my tinfoil hat on, still kind of believe that there is some semblance of price suppression going on right now. And do I have, the detailed response and the receipts to tell you that? No, it's just kind of a vibe that I'm getting right now. But, when you really boil everything down, market dynamics are very simple. The Bitcoin price action is very simple. There's just more sellers than there is buyers right now. And I think every one of us can feel this in our personal lives. It's like we're not seeing the FOMO vibes right now from people. If you talk to people about Bitcoin, they're like, yeah, I don't care. But once the price does start moving and making these moves in days, move in really short time frames, then you're going to see that there's going to be more interested buyers in the market. So you always just kind of boil it down. Bitcoin's the most liquid free market in the world, and there's just more sellers than buyers. And like David Bailey pointed out, there has been a huge amount of selling in this bear market, hence why the price is kind of crabbing. But I'm still convinced that by the end of the year and the beginning of 2025, like it's still the cycle's playing out. We're going to get some incredible price movement. So, hey, more cheap sats for us all. If the U.S. government is dumping their coin, thank you very much. Go buy that U.S. government Bitcoin, because this is the true separation of money and state.
Yeah, they're literally separating money and state for us. It's wonderful. Anyways, BitCarrot, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do. It's like, Bitcoin's like a spring. Like the more you try to push it down, it's just going to recoil and bounce back up.
Hell yeah.
Another thing that people that really need to keep in mind is the fact that, because this is a programmatic supply emission, there is no central market maker. Even if you wanted to imagine there is no central bank that can manipulate the price. So they can't print more, they can't suppress it more. And at some point, the whole thing's just going to explode. So just be patient.
100%. Just be patient. And again, I love that. It's a coiled spring. You could push it down for as much as you want, but that's just going to make it explode to the upside higher. Also, FU Dennis.
And if you know, you know. FU 58K
58K gang
Right,
forever.
the curse of the 58K gang. And also what I got to say as well is, yes, eventually that's what people have to understand, is that like the reason that they're able to manipulate the markets and manipulate money the way that they are able to is because they can look. I'll give you an example. When the US government pulled out of Afghanistan, they left $70 billion worth of equipment. Okay. Then as soon as that happened, like shortly after, within a matter of months, they're sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. The reason that they're so willy-nilly about that and they just don't care is because the money is fake. They could just print it out of nothing, right? So it has no consequence when you have that godlike power of being able to create money for free that the rest of us have to work for. With Bitcoin, you can only manipulate the market as long as you have you can only manipulate the market and put downward sell pressure as long as you have Bitcoin to sell. Once you run out of Bitcoin to sell, that's it. You either mine it or you either buy more. Like that's it. There's no other way of acquiring it, right? So the way that I frame it is it's like you have one shot, you can shoot that shot, and that's it. You know, you're gonna just have to you're gonna have to buy the Bitcoin that you sold. So anyways, kind of interesting topic. I think it creates an opportunity for people to continue stacking at these prices. I think a lot of people are maybe disappointed, but I do agree with Opti. I think we're going to have a great end of the year. Anyways, let's get to the culture. Talk to BitCarrot. Really excited about this. Guys, stay tuned. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, there's about 1,100 of you guys watching between YouTube, Rumble, and X. Make sure to smash that like button. Anyways, guys, let's hit the culture.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody, and we're back. Check out our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the Bitcoin social layer. Join the 11,000. It was shorter than I thought. Join the 11,822, and we're doing it live. Join the 11,822 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. The Orange Pill app is a great resource if you are in a city, you don't know any Bitcoiners around you, you go to a new city, or you're traveling for a conference, you don't know any Bitcoin events near you or Bitcoiners around you. The Orange Pill app is a great resource. It has a geographical feature, so it'll show you the Bitcoiners that are near you, and it gives you the ability to send them a message. It's also one of the best ways to reach me directly. I don't really answer Twitter DMs these days, or emails, or random Telegram messages. So if you want to reach me, download the Orange Pill app and send me a message through there. To get started, scan the QR code on your screen right now, or check the link in the video description. Download the Orange Pill app today. Stack friends who stack sats. Anyways, I'm excited for this conversation because Darkcoin is our boy, and he is the supreme leader of the Simply Bitcoin Telegram chat. And you know, if a friend of Darkcoin is a friend of mine, and we got BitCarrot in the house, and what are we going to talk about, Opti?
Yeah, let's start with just the importance of open source development, BitCarrot, because I know you are a contributor, you're a developer. I did see, you know, you did a tweet or a Nostr post the other day about kind of inspiring new people to get involved with coding. So let's start with why people should, at least maybe even if they're not the best coders, just like get involved with open source development.
Yeah, and for our audience, BitCarrot, could you first define what it is? Like, could you give context? What is open source development? How does it apply to Bitcoin, and why is it important for Bitcoin?
Okay, well, I mean, Bitcoin is open source. So
what does that mean?
What does it mean? Okay, so basically, Bitcoin is software, right? We all know this. And the code is open for anybody to read on the internet. And over like the last couple of decades, what we've discovered is that, you know, companies such as Microsoft and other big companies that decide to close off so that no one else in the public can read their code base, they actually don't do as well as open source, you know, in a long haul, you know. So, you know, a lot in the past, people are afraid, oh, you know, like if you see what I actually wrote, how the code is built, then, you know, we're not going to protect our proprietary, you know, architecture, our proprietary code base. But, you know, if it's open, that means anybody in the world can inspect it. Anybody can look at it. They can audit it. They can find bugs. And this is really critical to find those bugs and test it, because it's a matter of security. Like if you can't audit Bitcoin's code. You could have security bugs in there. Someone could be double spending, right? They could be double printing, right? You don't know that if it's a closed off code base. But because it's open, everyone can look at it. And the more eyes that are available to look at it, the more secure Bitcoin gets. So if you're concerned about Bitcoin potentially getting hacked or Bitcoin having security vulnerabilities, you want to have as many people looking at it as possible. So going back to the question that Opti was asking me, so why am I asking more people to get involved? You know, 2024 is a very different age from, let's say, 2020, even in terms of software development, because we have all these AIs now. And what I'm seeing is a rise in more people who don't have a lot of technical background who can actually start to write their own apps. And it's getting a lot easier because the AI is so powerful in enabling people to get access to information faster than ever before. So you can use it as a tool. And what I see a lot with Bitcoin and Lightning and Nostr development is that there's just not enough people looking at it. And you don't have to be an expert. You can sort of download it and run it yourself and try it out. And this helps the network. It helps build a stronger Bitcoin network. So if we want an ecosystem where a lot of people are using it, we have to go through all these phases of testing and robustness testing and people auditing and looking at it to make it stronger. Because effectively, open source development, excuse me, is greatly underfunded compared to commercial development. I mean, if you look at, big megalithic tech companies, they have gazillions of dollars to pay people to go, you know, look at code and fix it all day long. But in open source, the majority of the people are actually volunteers. So, and some of them are funded by grants, but not everybody. And if more people get involved, and if you don't have to be an expert, a lot of people are actually self-taught. They just, download it, try it out, test it, and then report errors. Just don't give up when it doesn't work. Like tell the person who created it that there's a bug here. That's really important because then people can help fix it, and that actually improves the software overall and improves the security of everything.
Love it. For people out there, like, what's the process for, like, you just mentioned it, but being more clear on the process? Anyone out there can participate in any open source software, and all you got to do is just show up and start tinkering with stuff and checking stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them are on GitHub, or there are tons of chat rooms on Telegram and Discord. You can use an existing product that's run by a company. You can, go to Plebnet. Plebnet is a, big group of Bitcoin enthusiasts or node runners. Run your own node and get on a chat room and start talking to people and, say, hey, I'm trying this out. Did you also see this issue? Can somebody help me with that? Or, I found some bug, I want to report it, that kind of thing. That actually helps the network. It helps Bitcoin grow overall, basically.
So let me ask you something also, BitCarrot. Like, what is the organization behind like Bitcoin's open source development? For example, like if someone wanted to contribute to Bitcoin, what would be the steps? Who is like kind of responsible for that? Like, where would people get started? And if they just want to kind of look at, the latest Bitcoin code, what should they do?
There's so many Bitcoin projects. So it's kind of hard to say. There are foundations such as OpenStash and HRF and the Human Rights Foundation, which do give grants. They give bigger grants. But again, in a way, these are centralized parties, right? So what I try to encourage are people to give donations directly to the developers. And you can do that if
Let
you
me
go on,
let me rephrase that. Bitcoin
okay.
Core specifically.
Yes. Okay, Bitcoin Core. What about it?
So
Like,
like if you wanted to contribute to Bitcoin
oh,
Core, right?
okay.
The key, Satoshi didn't want it this way. Satoshi wanted multiple, Bitcoin softwares, and they are, but most people are using Bitcoin Core right now. How would they go about that?
How would they go about you can go to the GitHub for Bitcoin Core. You can download the software, you can run the software. And then if you see something there's an issue, you can go to their chat group. There's like an IRC chat room, or you can go to the GitHub and look at the issues that have been filed, and you can, you know, test the outstanding, code that's in process. That's called a pull request. You can do stuff like that. Um, and then, just be part of the conversation. Like, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to do, you can always go and listen in on a lot of these talks. You could go to your local bit devs group and listen to what other people are talking about, so you can understand, ask questions, go to public forums. That's a way to start, basically. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And let me ask you something. Do you think that there is a bit of like a lot of people would say, oh, it's a danger that it's centralized. Like, for example, one of the things, the GitHub, for example, like one of the things that happened with the whole Craig Wright lawsuit was that they managed to take down the bitcoincore.org website or bitcoin.org website in the UK because of, the whole copyright stuff in that sense. So does that concern you that potentially in the future that could be a weak point for governments to exploit to potentially go after Bitcoin developers?
I think that is an attack vector. I think it has been an ongoing attack vector for this entire year. For example, the Tornado Cash trial, the Samurai devs who were arrested, and then, Phoenix Wallet exiting the United States, and then I believe some others also. So I think in the United States, it's actually a fairly hostile environment currently for open source developers. In other places, it may not be so. And I think that it's really important for people who are actually working on legislation to push back on this. If there's something on the regulatory side, you shouldn't be like holding developers who are actually building a tool and then putting them in jail if somebody commits murder with it. For example, like if somebody manufactures knives and someone uses a knife, to put that person who manufactured a knife, well, you're the one who murdered. No, they didn't. They didn't commit the crime. They made a tool. So there is this kind of, how do you say it? This conflict going on right now. This struggle between like what do we categorize as, um, you know, what's a crime, what's not a crime in the law. And so I think in terms of open source, the code base is on GitHub. I think, maybe long term that could be a risk because Microsoft owns GitHub. But the thing is, it is decentralized enough that, everyone has a copy of it. So if you're going to take down the whole thing, it's going to be almost impossible because like it's all the nodes that are running that copy of Bitcoin Core, if that's what you're concerned about. And there's other versions of it as well. So
of course.
yeah.
And I think that's something that's like really important to keep in mind, right? Which is like, I think that hosting the software on GitHub is more so of a convenience thing rather than something out of necessity. And this is why it's so important to run your own node, because when you're running your own node, you literally have you're running your own version of the Bitcoin software, right? Like this is what decentralization is all about. This is what makes it so important. Now, to go back to your point, and I've seen a lot of comments over the last couple of weeks in regards to, why are you guys talking about politics? You just heard BitCara talk about it, right? The United States government has been extremely hostile towards Bitcoin software developers. They used the Tornado Cash case to set a precedent. After all the appeals got shut down, the precedent was set 9 months after they jailed the Samurai guys. And that case is incredibly important. So this upcoming election, this is why we talk about all this stuff, is incredibly important, specifically in the United States, because it's going to determine whether there's going to be a hostile or a positive environment for not only Bitcoin entrepreneurs, Bitcoin business owners, but also Bitcoin developers and just software developers in general. Because what the government is doing is insane. They're basically trying to make the case that writing code is dangerous. And
Right.
what they did with the Tornado Cash case was fascinating, because essentially the US government was making the case that because the North Koreans use the software, they have the ability to sanction software, sanction speech, sanction code, which in my belief, I'm not a lawyer, I think it's completely against the First Amendment, right? Which literally specifically protects speech, and code is speech, in my opinion. So yeah, I really, really appreciate those insights, BitCarrot.
Yeah, and there's also one thing else I want to mention is that, when we're talking about supporting Bitcoin developers, there's a reason why a lot of us want to be pseudonymous, because we're walking this really fine line because we don't know what the regulatory action is going to be right now. Like they could be retroactive and go back and say, well, you did this like 5 years ago. Now we want to put you in jail, right? So I think what's really important is to realize that if you're going to donate to an organization like OpenSAS, it is centralized. And they actually, I don't know how much they dox, but I do know some of these donations are the recipients are heavily doxed. So the best way to support people who are actually working on a security in the future of Bitcoin, if you want to support Bitcoin developers, you should donate to them directly. Okay. So there is one organization that's trying to do it. It's really hard because it's grassroots and there isn't much publicity, but I'll mention it right now. And Opti put the link in the chat. It's called invincibleprivacy.github.io/donate. So if you want to donate there to any of the projects that are working on privacy, they're working on issues that are critical for the security of Bitcoin's future. And also my project is also on there, hivetalk.org. You can donate there. And there's also another thing. It's like everything I work on, I want to make sure that we don't track what people are doing. So like, for example, with Hive Talk, we want to make a space where people are not, we don't have any data on you after you leave the room. So basically, once you're in the room, talking to people, and once you're gone, there's nothing. The server has no memory. So this is also a privacy like focus that I've been going after, because I feel that too many of the big tech platforms that we're using, like Zoom or Jitsi or whatever platform, they record probably your conversations and what you're saying. And who knows, maybe they actually data mine every word you put out there on the internet, and then they can use that against you in the future. Sort of like, Minority Report, okay, this person had these thoughts. We're going to put them on this short list of potentially being a criminal, even though they never did any crime. So this is why I think privacy is important. I think it's important for us to protect freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is really important because if you don't have the freedom to think about things and make those mistakes, you're also suppressing innovation. Like a lot of these authoritarian dictatorships, you can't think of something that's not in line with the status quo. And the minute that happens, there is no forward innovation, there's no progress in society. There's no creativity. That's all suppressed. And this is one of the major reasons, why these things are all interlinked. People are like, oh, why you're like talking price? Well, there's a reason. I mean, do you want growth? Do you want beauty? Do you want a good, solid foundation to your economies? And, Bitcoin is all of those things where your value is not devalued over time like fiat. If you want this, you also have to protect freedom of innovation. And the innovation is only possible if you're free to think things that are maybe not mainstream, or maybe not part of the status quo, or maybe are crazy and maybe could be censored. So this is why all these things are actually interlinked. And this is why I encourage that if you support a project and you support freedom of speech and you support innovation and you support a Bitcoin future where your money is solid as a rock, then support your developers directly, because we're building these tools for you guys. This is for you. It's not just for us. It's for everybody.
Beautiful. And I fundamentally agree, because, and this is what some people perhaps, they don't appreciate that side of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin fundamentally is code, right? It's code. And, people have to write that code. People have to maintain that code. And
code is speech.
There we go. I 100% agree. It really is. It's literally, it is speech. It's like you're typing.
Words.
It's words. It might not be like human language, but it's computer language. But still, you type it with a keyboard. You can't look at me with a straight face and say, okay, somehow me typing with a keyboard is words are dangerous. Like that's a very kind of slippery path to go down. It's only totalitarians that find it dangerous. But what I will say also as well is it's probably a good idea to get a deeper appreciation of
all the aspects of Bitcoin. So I was very lucky in the sense that when I got into Bitcoin back in 2016, I got into Bitcoin through Bitcoin mining, and that really gave me an appreciation to the one of the aspects, the infrastructure aspect of Bitcoin. But there's the coding aspect of Bitcoin. I never really got into that. I got into the media side of things, for better or for worse. But this is another core component, a key component of Bitcoin. So, to have, even though I don't understand it on a technical level, I do understand it on a conceptual level. It's good idea to have an understanding of what it is, how the thing that you hold and that you're benefiting from works. That's probably a good idea to catch up on this. So I really like this episode because we're talking about, and I'd love to show off that website, Opti. I really like that we're talking about something that we usually don't talk a lot about on Simply Bitcoin. And shout out to Darth for recommending this awesome guest. I also want to talk about BitCarrot's website, or project, better said. I apologize. It's called hivetalk.org. Opti is pulling it up right now. And HiveTalk is a free browser-based real-time video calls. That's super cool. So what is this BitCarrot, and why should people care?
So, as I said a bit earlier, is it's supposed to be the new Zoom, or the new Jitsi where people can get together and talk. But we've enabled Nostr logins, and we've also enabled lightning zaps. So basically, if you're in a room with somebody like, right now with me, me and Opti, there'll be a little icon on the bottom left, bottom right hand corner where you can send them lightning sats. So for example, if Opti is saying something really awesome, you can zap him. Woohoo. And then you don't have to have a Nostr login. You can log in with just a regular name, or a lightning address if you don't have Nostr. But at the same time, if you use Nostr, there are more features that we're building in, because everything's so tightly integrated in terms of like the social aspect and also with the lightning aspect. And then it's cross compatible with all the other Nostr clients that are out there. And that's the beauty of Nostr, is that you can bring your social media, so not social media, your entire social network. So all the people that you follow on Nostr Media Social, you can bring that entire list with you across any Nostr app. And it's not like you can do that with mainstream social media. Like, for example, if you have a whole bunch of people that you follow on Twitter, X, and then you go use Facebook, there's no like automatic crossover to bring your entire social network over to Facebook. You have to rebuild it all over again, right? So, and the same thing is like if you have a whole following on Twitter, and then you want to go to Instagram, or if you want to go to eBay to do shopping, or Etsy, you have to rebuild that entire social network. And the power of Nostr is that you don't have to do that, because it's a private key, public key based system that's similar to Bitcoin. And the power is that, the network is everywhere.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, and I think that's like lost on people a little bit. Like, you're using like Damus or like Primal, and you're using these apps to interact with Nostr, but those apps are essentially just facilitating. They're essentially just, I don't want to say wrappers. That's not the right word, but they're really clever UIs for you to interact with the protocol. Ha!
Yeah.
Nailed it.
There you go.
And the equivalent would be, you have a variety of different wallets you can use. For example, you can use Sparrow, you can use Electrum. I'm an Electrum maxi. And you can use Bitcoin Core, right? But there's different wallets that basically do plus or minus the same thing and allow you to interact with the protocol, Bitcoin, right? And you can build various things on that. For example, there's a lot of multi-sig companies. There you go. Opti's drinking carrots.
I'm drinking BitCarrot juice.
And, it allows you to kind of interact with it. So, for example, there's Casa, there's, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. What is the name?
Dude, it's definitely Friday. You can tell.
what is the name of this company? Why am I forgetting it? Oh, Nunchuck, right? So there's different kind of Unchained. There we go. There's definitely like a bunch of collaborative custody applications that are built on top of the Bitcoin protocol that allow you to do different things. So the point I'm trying to make is, and the reason I'm bringing up those examples is now apply that to Nostr, right? We've only hit the surface of what can be built on top of Nostr, and just take a look at what's been built on top of Simply. I'm reading in the chat. God damn it, guys. What's been built on top of Bitcoin so far, to kind of get an idea of what can be built using something like Nostr.
Yeah, you can run your entire life on Nostr at some point
sure.
very soon. I think some of the smartest people are on Nostr. It's incredibly fast. People are really very engaged. Like, I've not seen this level of engagement in a very long time. Like, everybody wants to be part of it.
Absolutely.
So it's really inspiring because, there are people who actually are not developers, but they like made their own apps because they just got swept up in this enthusiasm on Nostr, and it's actually very easy for someone who doesn't have much experience to build a Nostr client. Um,
and you can build it however you want. Like, I remember like when Damus was first released, that was like the first iteration. And then the Primal app came out, and it was like, holy, like, this is great,
Right.
So, and I know that there's going to be something else that's released, but the point is that you could take all your followers with you. You could take all, you know what I'm saying? Like that
Right.
lives on, and that's the beauty of it. And that's in stark contrast towards how social media works today. And I think that, from an understanding standpoint, might be a little bit difficult for some people to understand. That's why I kind of listed out all those examples. Anyways, we are getting close to the top of the hour. BitCarrot, I do want to give you the opportunity to, if you have any final words for our audience, there's 1,200 people watching live right now. You want to plug something, you want to highlight something, what would it be?
Sure. You can always find me on Nostr at primal.net/bitcarrot. There's a link to all the projects I do. So I don't just do development. I also do some design work. I also make swag and other things. And there's also a community group if you're interested in getting more involved in Lightning and Bitcoin development. There's plebnet.dev, which I also run. The primary project right now, of course, is hivetalk.org. We would love it if you came and used it. Please give us feedback. Tell us how to make it better. Help us grow the circular economy. Join these meetups because people are teaching each other and showing each other how to grow the Bitcoin circular economies and how to make Bitcoin everywhere, all over the world.
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. I think I have one last question for you, BitCarrot, before we go. Satwise Jank says, how close do you feel Belt 12 is to mainstream rollout?
It's coming. I mean, there's like the mining company, right? The Ocean, I think they're doing their payouts in Bolt 12. I think the Bolt 11 is pretty well entrenched right now, so that's not going to go away too soon. I think it's kind of cool. Bolt 12 is pretty cool because it allows you to have the reusable QR codes and recurring payments and other aspects that Bolt 11 doesn't have. But I think that yeah, both of them will be in play for a while. I didn't know carrots talk. Yeah, carrots are very chatty if you let me be very chatty.
I love that. Love
They
that.
also taste delicious. So the multi-use over here.
It's a very carroty Friday. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning into Simply Bitcoin Live. Today is August 16, 2024. I'm your host, Nico. So my co-host, Optimus Fields, and our guest for today, BitCarrot. Go check out her awesome project. BitCarrot, could you give it one more plug, please?
Sure. You can find me on primal.net/BitCarrot. And then come check out Hive Talk at hivetalk.org. And thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure. And I honestly been seriously honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. All right, guys, unplug this weekend. Touch grass. Bitcoin will be here on Monday. And so we will be back on Monday. What? I'm just trolling. It's going to zero. Anyways, guys, have an amazing weekend. Go touch grass, be out in the sun, enjoy your family, eat some good food, and Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys Monday for another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.